This might be a hot take, but I hate color grading. Well, I actually really do like color grading because you can get cinematic images like this, or you can turn your boring log footage from this to this. But what I can't stand is when it takes forever to get from start to finish with so many confusing nodes. So, how do we get there? Well, if you're like me and you like saving time on color grading, I think I found one really good solution. This tool is packed with so many features, so let me show you guys how I speed up my color grading workflow with Dehancer for DaVinci Resolve. Hi guys, welcome to the tutorial. As I mentioned earlier, I still prefer using the least amount of nodes possible to get to your final image, but why do I still keep shooting in log for color grading? Shouldn't I just start with a regular color profile if I don't want to edit with a lot of different nodes? So you still can color grade in a standard color profile, but shooting with log allows you to retain more data in your highlights, shadows, and overall color, making it easier to color grade in post. Which is why I shoot in a log format, and I'm still able to get a really cinematic final look. So the solution that I found to speed up my workflow is a plugin called Dehancer. It's a really powerful plugin with a ton of different features. So I found out about Dehancer because I was looking for an easier and faster way to color grade, and turns out that they had a DaVinci Resolve plugin. The other cool thing is that they also have film profiles, and I've actually used some of these film stocks before in my 35mm and 120 film cameras. But for DaVinci Resolve, they had all the features I was looking for an all-in-one plugin, like film grain, halations, blooms, film damage. Those are all features I was looking for because I usually use nodes for all of those details. And of course, there's a different tier system they have, depending on what your project needs are. Right guys, let's get started. So here in the timeline, we have a few clips that are still ungraded. Some of these were taken with S-Log and some of them with F-Log too. So we'll go ahead and start with this clip that I took in New York by selecting it and going to the color tab. And I have a node here where I use Dehancer, and this is what it looks like before and after, just like in the introduction. So we'll go ahead and turn that off for now and go to this empty node here. What you'll do is go to Effects and type in Dehancer and just drag and drop to this empty node. Now instantly you can see that this is not where we want it to be just yet. But don't worry, with a few changes to these settings here, we'll be sure to take it from this to this. Let's go back to the original node and click on Source. This is one of my favorite things about Dehancer is that I don't have to create a CST node or a color space transform node for every clip I want to color grade. I can just hit choose camera, and this camera was a Fujifilm camera. It was the XH2S, and it was shot with F-Log 2. Now, still not where we want it to be just yet, but let's keep editing. Let's start increasing the exposure so we can see things a lot more clearly. I remember it being a lot more yellow that day. I think right about there, and slightly more magenta. You can be pretty subtle with this one. All right, so we made a few basic changes here, but let's scroll down and see what other settings we can change to make this image look better. In the next section, you can see film and all the different film stocks you can change to from all the different manufacturers, from Fujifilm to Kodak, and I think I even saw some Polaroid in here as well. And you can have fun and experiment with all the different film stocks that they have here. Some of them are even film stocks that I've shot with before on my 35mm or 120 film camera. But for now, let's go back to the original one we had, which was Kodak Vision. I think it was 50D, or was it 500? I think it was 50. And even once you've selected the film stock, you can still change some of the exposure settings in what's called push and pull. And it's supposed to simulate how real film is pushed or pulled when it's being developed. We'll go ahead and leave this here, but we can always come back to change it. Next, let's go to Film Developer. And here we have a few more lighting settings that we can change. Let's start with contrast boost. Let's actually make sure we have this turned on first. Don't forget to turn this on. And here we can change the contrast of the image. It's already looking pretty contrasty to me, but let's make sure that we can make these changes very subtle. So I think reducing contrast in this case would look a lot better. I I think right about there. It can always be something really subtle. Now for gamma correction, I think right there we're good. Color separation, in this case, is not really doing much. And color boost is definitely something that I want for this clip. Maybe tone it back a little bit. Something along the lines of here looks a lot better. Let's look at the image that we have now and what we had before. It's already looking really good, but let's keep going. There's a few more settings that we can change. So we can go ahead and close this. That's another thing I really like about Dehancer is that you don't have to keep each tab open. You can collapse them like this, just so you're saving on space. Next is film compression, and we'll make sure to enable this. And we'll change the impact sliders to, looks like it's affecting the highlights the most. So we want to have a lot of dynamic range, or the illusion of dynamic range here. So we'll go ahead and switch this to the right. Our white point, the highlight is clipping slightly. And I think this was also shot with an ND filter. So let's make sure to push this slightly to the right. I think right about there. Tonal range, we will push this to the right slightly. And we can see that our colors are looking a lot more vibrant now. With color density, we can emphasize the colors that we currently have right here. And I think right about there is good. Let's go down to expand. It's already enabled. And we can change the black points here. Somewhere around right there. It's looking good. And the white point can also be changed. This is where we can kind of get to clipping the image here, as you can see in the waveform. I prefer this being a little bit more to the right. You can always change this as you wish. And let's stick with the right there. I think that's good. And I like that. Let's go to film grain and halation. If I make this image full screen, you can tell that there's a bit of grain here in the sky. And if I play it, the grain moves. And DaVinci already has something like this, but you can change the type of grain for the type of film that you want for your clip. You can choose from 8mm, which is very, very grainy. Or if you want some grain that is more fine, you can choose something like 35mm. Actually, 35mm ISO 50 seems to have way finer grain. The lower the ISO, the finer the grain particles will be. Personally, I like less grain, so we'll go with the ISO 50. Let's say we want ISO 50, but we want amount 70. Now you have a lot of noise and grain. I don't really want this much grain. I think this is a lot, but I think some is still good while keeping the image looking sharp. Next is everybody's favorite, halation. What we'll do is select 35mm, and I think that's a little bit much for my liking. I know some people like to go crazy with it, but for the sake of this example, let's show you how intense you can get this. Okay, so you can push the slider to the right. One really cool feature of halation here is that you can select mask mode, and you can see where exactly on, let me see if you can see where exactly on screen the halation will appear, and it's usually going to be around the the outline of where highlights are. You can use this as a guide to determine how much halation you need or don't need. You can do it visually too, but this helps you have a better guide. Let's increase the halation to make it look very cinematic. Just like the other sliders, this also has a 16mm and 8mm option. And once you go lower from 16 to 8, you start seeing way more halation. If that's what you want, great. Personally, don't like that much halation. I think 35 for me is the sweet spot. Now, if you can see here at the bottom, we are dropping frames quite a bit. You can solve this by changing your playback resolution, and things seem to play more smooth, but that's just something to keep in mind since this is a lot more graphics heavy. Next, we'll go to bloom, and here let's stick with 35mm, and this will essentially bloom our highlights. If you can see where the skyline is, let's try changing this slider a lot more. See these lights here where these people are? You start seeing a lot more bloom here. It's a pretty cool effect if you want to go for a more nostalgic look. I think we're fine being a little bit more subtle with this one. For the sake of letting these videos run a lot more smooth, let's turn bloom off for now. So here is our before and our after. Again, there's so many different features that you can play around with and customize, but if you notice, we're still in just one node. This helps me keep everything clean and organized because of how modular this plugin is. Now, if you still need to make any other changes outside of the plugin, you can always add a different node, before or after the plugin, depending on your workflow, and make any precise changes you need with this node. And it'll still keep everything as clean as possible. But usually, using just Dehancer is good enough for me. Right guys, so let's go to another clip. Let's try this one. So we'll go here, and I already made a Dehancer node here, but we'll start from scratch. Drop in your plugin. Now this one was shot with a different camera. I believe this one was a Sony A7C2. Now some of you may be thinking that using one node alone is insane, but keep in mind that this is just for an example and you can always use as much nodes as you need. Let's change the temperature a bit to make it a bit warmer, and the tint to make it a little bit more magenta. Let's go back and dial the exposure just a little bit lower. Right there is good. And let's try a different film stock. Let's do a Portra, because usually Portra has really good skin tones. That looks really good. So let's try and see what we can change with the push and pull. And I think if we go a little bit more to the left, the greens in the background look a lot more realistic. All right, so let's go to film developer. Could use a little bit more contrast just to make it appear slightly sharper. Gamma correction. Let's be subtle with this too, just slight right. And color boost, we'll want to use a little bit more of this just to bring out some of those colors in the background and in the skin tones as well. Don't go overboard with it. I think we're good at 35. Film compression, make sure to turn this on. I think this one works best with highlights specifically to this background. So let's try and make some changes here with the impact. The white point dragged a little bit more to the right. Tonal range can be changed, and this kind of makes the image a little bit more muted. And let's add just a little bit more color density. Next we'll go to expand. Let's go a little bit more to the left slightly. And white point should be... I like the bright look on this image. I think that's looking really good. We might be a little bit overexposed, but I think it's not enough to where it's an issue. Now, film grain, you can tell that there is a lot of film grain here in this shot. Again, personally speaking, I'd like to tone it down just very slightly. So we still have a very sharp image, just having a authentic look with some grain here. Adding some halation here. I think that's a little bit too much, but let's try the 16mm. I think I'm happy with that. Let's scroll down to the bloom. Here, I'd like to use a lot more bloom. I think that might be a bit too much, so let's do, I think 70 is a good sweet spot. And let's look at the before and after. Look at that. That's a really impressive color grade all within one node. This is why I've been looking for something like Dehancer for so long. Well, there you have it guys. That is the very powerful Dehancer tool. This is how I color grade as fast as I do, because like I said, I don't want to spend so much time editing nodes or creating node trees. I just want to get to my final footage as fast as possible. So this is the perfect solution that I've been searching for. If you like Dehancer and this is something that you can see yourself using for your workflow, they have a free trial for DaVinci, so you can try it out before you fully commit to buying it. And if you're ready to jump in, you can use my code to get 10% off any Dehancer plugin when you check out. Now, I did want to show you guys one more thing, and that's Dehancer Online. So Dehancer Online is a really good tool for quick fixes on your photos. The profiles from all camera manufacturers are here in the form of presets. You can preview the presets in real time and make any adjustments to make your image look more cinematic. There's also other tools to make your image ready for export quickly, so this is great for any last minute changes you need to make without opening up another app. So feel free to give Dehancer Online a try if you're looking to speed up your workflow. So that is Dehancer. I hope this video was really helpful to you guys. If you've used Dehancer or plan to get it, let me know what you think about it in the comments. If you loved it or if you hated it, let me know what you guys think. Alright guys, that's it for now, but I'll see you in the next one.